All right, so I think we are all set. Sorry for the delay. We are starting 10 minutes late for everybody else to kind of join because some people may have different times, some people may be late. But now, without further ado, we can get straight on with our lesson for today. So I'll just share the presentation we'll be using today. So we will mute all of our microphones to prevent that little duplicate effect, because it's also kind of a bit distracting to kind of have that background noise sometimes, and also it's kind of interrupting when we have our mics unmuted while we are speaking or other people are speaking. So without any further delay, welcome everybody to Future Speech class, and this will be our second class for these lessons. So first, I would like you guys to first rename to the list I have given you in chat if you haven't already. If you can't find your name, you can just leave your name as it is, but if you can find your name on it, please rename yourself to both the number, your name, and the grade, because then that's an easier way to organize. If you have any questions, you can always send a private chat. I turned off public chat because it was getting a bit off topic when I joined. However, we can get started now since we have covered those ground rules for people who are just joining for us today. So today, again, we are still going to be talking about impromptu basics, because some people might not have known exactly in what impromptu is, and they're just beginning to learn impromptu. So today we will be covering both, we covered organization last time, and today we're going to be covering examples and presentation. And for next time, we're going to have logic to be presented next week. So today we're going to mainly focus on examples and presentation within our impromptu speech. If you weren't here for last class, then we will be kind of skipping over what we did last time because we don't have as much time today, partly because we started a bit late. However, you can always go see the recording of the video we have last time in the classroom. So today we're mainly going to be focusing on examples and presentation. So first, talking about examples. So first of all, what are examples? Examples will be kind of the flesh of your speech, and basically like the main meat of your speech, if so to speak. So if organization was your bones, then the examples will be your flesh. So the organization is kind of your format and how you kind of organize everything into a structure that you can follow. But once you actually use examples, you can build upon the bare bones and you can actually have a really nice speech. So last time we talked about organization and formats. So a format that we could use is like the topical format, which is first you deliver a hook, then you have some niceties, then topic 1, topic 2, and topic 3. So that would be your kind of bare bones, right? To kind of expand on those bones and all those topics is where examples comes along. So it's going to be the main time filler for your speech, okay? Sometimes logic can take quite a lot of time as well. However, we do want to have more examples than plain hard logic, because plain hard logic, although might seem very, well, logical and sensical, it's not going to be as interesting as examples. So there's two types of examples, right? Some of you might be more familiar with debate. There's like speech examples and debate examples, okay? And speech examples will be vastly different from debate. When we see debate examples, So when we see debate examples, we see something like, back in 1990, there was a research paper splitting two people into two groups and something happened. So debate examples are kind of like that, very logical, very statistical, very very kind of more like logic than really interesting stuff. In speech, they're going to be very different, and we're going to talk about them later. So examples are going to be kind of in speech instead of debate. Examples are going to be the most interesting parts of your speech. So, for example, if we list off some very, very famous speeches from history, such as Churchill, "We'll fight on the beaches, we'll fight on the hills," stuff like that. He uses some examples and some usage of presentation to kind of deliver that kind of impact. And for example, Martin Luther King's "I Have a Dream" speech uses both presentation examples, and we'll get to that later. So next, it makes your speech unique and memorable. Yes. So these examples are basically like the flesh, and the flesh is going to be very important. But we can't undermine organization either. Even though the flesh of the body is kind of the most important, however, if you don't have organization, you don't have any place to kind of grow your flesh, right? So although examples are more important than organization, so to speak, you need organization to kind of build upon your examples. So in a way, organization is just as important for examples, because without organization, you don't have any examples, so to say. And sorry if you're guys, if my voice kind of feels kind of weird. I've been having this kind of nose block for kind of a while. So, anyways, next, that's basically what makes your speech unique and memorable. So we just talked about the interrelationships between examples and organization. Now let's talk about how kind of examples make your speech unique and memorable, okay? So, for example, there's a great one. There's one by Steve Jobs, and he presented a very good speech in Stanford University. Now, usually there's going to be, for these famous people like Steve Jobs, there's going to be a person that usually writes their speech, right? For them. However, this time, because of one reason to another, Steve Jobs does not have a pre-written speech. So he was kind of unprepared for the speech at Stanford. Let's not annotate. Thank you very much. Disable participant annotation. Okay, so back to the point. Steve Jobs was basically underprepared because he didn't have a speech written for the Stanford University speech. Now, what did he do? He kind of came up with a speech real quick using a lot of his personal examples, okay? And this is kind of what makes that speech kind of the most memorable speeches of all his speeches, because he uses very wonderful examples for him. And because he's Steve Jobs and his life is full of wonderful things, every personal example of him was very impactful, very meaningful, very well done. So that's kind of something to kind of think about, how examples, even just personal ones, can make your speech that much more unique and memorable. Next, we have, what are examples? So first, it's the flesh of your speech. And now let's get on to the second. It's the part of the speech which serves the purpose, okay? Now, last time we kind of we kind of brushed up upon inform, persuade, and entertain, right? Those are supposed to be the three main parts of your speech. And there's kind of like a branch off of entertain, which is like inspire, but I guess that's kind of inside entertain. So it's going to be the part of your speech which serves the purpose. Sometimes if you're doing inform, cold hard logic might help you serve the purpose even more, maybe a little bit for persuade. But because we're doing impromptu speech, logic is going to be hard to come by in those forms. We're going to have to use examples to kind of be the main part of your speech which serves the purpose. So it serves towards your purpose. So remember, all of your examples should serve the purpose. Whoops, maybe we shouldn't get there yet. So all of your examples have to serve towards the purpose. Now, this is kind of a very easy thing to get off to. So it's very easy to kind of get sidetracked and speaking about examples that are very off related to the topic. You always have to remember that your examples are going to be the things that are informing, persuading, and entertaining. If you don't have examples that do this, then the examples are going to be a bit off topic, so to speak. And your examples will serve towards tone. So, for example, there's going to be examples that serve towards happiness, that serves towards sadness. For example, if your speech is about something like, I don't know, social media, and you're talking about how social media is bad and it serves towards anxiety and stuff, you can kind of set the tone with a bunch of examples about one time I saw a person that maybe was addicted to social media and then his outcome for life wasn't that good. So that was kind of sort of towards a sad tone. But however, if you're talking about social media in the terms of, wow, it connects everybody, technology has advanced so far, we can set a happy tone. For example, our parents used to have nothing but telephones. We couldn't connect with each other. But then now we have all the technologies of social media to kind of connect us. So yeah, I know that was a lot to throw at you, but kind of the main things to kind of think about will be, one, the examples are going to be the flesh of your speech. It's going to be the main part of your speech. Organization kind of gives you the structure to build upon with examples. And they're not examples in debate. They're not very logical because you shouldn't have access to the internet while you're making impromptu speeches. And they should be the most interesting and most unique and memorable. And second of all, it's going to be the part of your speech which serves the purpose. It's basically there to inform, persuade, or entertain your audience. And it serves towards the tone of your entire speech. Now you may be wondering, what do examples take the form of, right? So what do examples kind of look like? Now the first one is going to be personal/anecdotal examples. And now if you guys don't know what anecdotes mean, it's kind of like a story that can be either yours or somebody else's. For example, like they're not exactly jokes in that they're more like stories, but they're kind of either short and they're fascinating or funny or inspiring. So personal/anecdotal examples. So they're the most interesting type of examples if they're done well, and interesting examples is probably the main thing in your speech which will probably get you very high points and scores. And an example of these personal anecdotes would be like, I once did something, or I knew a person who once. Going back to kind of like the social media one, if you're talking about how social media causes anxiety and shouldn't be given to young people, you can say, I once was addicted to social media. And while I was addicted to social media, I never did any homework. I was stuck and I was hooked to social media. I couldn't do anything without thinking of my notifications, without thinking of what I'm doing on social media. So that would basically be kind of a personal / anecdotal example for the social media topic. Another one, using I knew a person who once, you could say, I once had a friend named, let's say, Billy Bob Joe, and Billy Bob Joe, he was hooked to social media. He would never do homework. He would post 24/7, and he would never focus on anything except how many likes his post get. So those would be kind of personal / anecdotal examples. Basically drawing from your personal life to kind of give us some examples. It can serve towards entertain or persuade. Okay, this slide isn't going to be formatted very well. Ugh. So it can serve towards entertain or persuade. Those personal anecdotal examples, for example, towards entertain is probably going to be the most important use, where you can inspire people with anecdotes, or you can persuade them with my experiences with life. So that's kind of personal and anecdotal examples. The other one is that it doesn't have to be real, okay? Strictly speaking, in impromptu, the judges won't know if your real life experiences or like your personal life is still what you say. For example, Billy Bob Joe might not even be a real person. You could have just completely made him up, but you don't tell the judges that, right? And these are kind of the main things, because when we're going to attend these contests, we're not going to be old enough or have enough life experiences like Steve Jobs did to kind of have all of these experiences to tell, and these real life experiences. So you can kind of make up experiences, just don't make them like too far-fetched. Right. For example, you can't say that I saved the world, or I knew a person who saved the world. More like I knew a person who was hooked to social media, right? So those are personal / anecdotal examples. The next type of examples will be theoretical examples. Now, theoretical examples will be the easiest to implement out of all examples, because for personal / anecdotal examples, maybe it's a bit hard to think of a fake example, or maybe you don't have enough life experiences for this topic. Maybe you never was hooked to social media, or maybe you don't even know what social media is. So theoretical examples are supposed to be the easiest to implement. An example of this would probably be Group A versus Group B. For example, let's give Group A a bunch of phones with social media apps, and let's give Group B a phone with a bunch of educational apps, and then let's do what will happen to them. So theoretical examples can also be kind of rephrased as thought experiments, or things that can theoretically happen, but it kind of serves towards a point, right? Another example of this would be, let's take a situation where. So it can be a theoretical comparison, it can be a theoretical situation. Theoretical examples are the easiest to implement because they take so many forms, and it's going to be very easy to kind of think of one. All right, now we talk about it can serve towards inform or persuade. So I'll give an example on, let's take a situation where of a theoretical example. So sticking with like the social media topic, we can say something like, let's take a situation where we have a bunch of teenagers who are absolutely hooked to their phone, absolutely hooked to social media, only worries about their likes, about their posts. Now, how can we adjust their environment to let them get off of this social media? And then you can proceed to kind of give us a solution. So that's basically an example of, let's take a situation where. Now, the last of them all will be logical examples. Now, the logical examples is going to be needing previous knowledge and like needing previous statistical knowledge. For example, in 1990, something happened, right? Right, in 1990 something happened. So these will be kind of like facts, except situational facts. So a fact versus a logical example. A fact might be, did you know that zebras have black and white stripes? A logical example, however, would be, did you know that zebras have black and white stripes? And this is exactly the reason why they can avoid being hunted down, because the stripes blend in with each other and the predators don't know where the animal starts and ends, and this is how we can implement something else. So a logical example kind of is an example of a historical thing. So it's an example, but it's phrased in a logical term. It's a bit hard to explain, but I'll give you another example. For example, say your topic was maybe, let's just take social media happen. And now, if I just make up a fact real quick, did you know that in 1880 or 1990, that social media just became popularized? And just when social media became popular, anxiety rates shot up, depression shot up, everything else shot up. So this is like, these are examples of logical examples. There might be like historical references about statistics. So that's basically logical examples. They're going to need previous statistics. Like, you'll have to know that when you use social media, all those statistics about doing them. And then they kind of serve towards, right. It serves towards informing and persuading, but it's one of the most powerful in informing and persuading. So if it happened in history, even though in debate we don't really like this, if it happened in history, it might happen again, for example. And did you know that? It's a logical example. Very good at informing. Okay.
Wait, Andy?
Yes?
Did the thing you say about like the zebras is real?
Yeah, it's real. Zebras have black and white stripes because they kind of have in herds, and they kind of run together. The stripes kind of blur themselves together, and it's kind of, the predator's eyes are kind of specialized for prey hunting a singular prey, and when it kind of confuses the predator's eyes. Anyways, back on point. So that's kind of examples. Whoops. If we now know all of these three types of examples, personal, theoretical, and logical, and we kind of look back at the previous slide, we can kind of make better sense of this previous slide. So what are examples? They're going to be the flesh of your speech, right? So all of your anecdotes, they're going to be the main time filler. All of your theoretical example, they're going to serve towards the purpose. Your speech should be mainly filled with either your stories, your theoretical situations, your logical situations. So that's kind of, if we look back at the slides, you can kind of make better sense of this. Your anecdotes will make your speech more unique and more memorable. Like, you're the only one who will have a unique personal story. It will be the most interesting parts of your speech. Like a theoretical example, oh, what will happen, the audience might say. Or a personal example, oh, very interesting story. Or a logical example, oh, that happened. Wow, that's wonderful. So those, it's going to be the most interesting parts of your speech. And now you kind of know the differences between the examples in speech and examples in debate. And you know that they're going to be the main time filler of your speech. Remember, however, that we always have to build upon our organization with our examples. Always, always, always first build up your bones and then add the examples, okay? So that's basically examples all covered. So these are just these are just examples, basics. So this is basically the basics of examples. In the next classes, we can go more in depth with examples when you guys are more advanced. But so far, these are basically just like, what are examples or how can we use them so far? So this is basically just some basic overview of examples. Now let's talk about presentation. So presentation is basically how you deliver your speech, right? So it can be things like voice projection. So notice how I'm speaking loudly and clearly, right? A lot of people at first might feel shy and they might mumble or they might not speak loud enough. So you have to project your voice so that not only can the audience hear, but they can hear your voice clearly. They know what you're talking about. So that would be kind of voice projection. Another one will be tone. So when we're talking about a sad event, we don't want to sound happy. When we're talking about a happy one, we don't want to sound like dull and sedated. So match the tone of your presentation with kind of right. Just mute your mics while you're not speaking. So back to the point. So that's basically kind of tone. It's basically just kind of tone of your speech. The next one will be intonation and voice variation. So it might seem intonation and tone might seem similar, and they kind of are, but not in the way that you might think. So intonation / voice variation is kind of like the varying of pitch. One way that I like to think of it is that monotone is the opposite of intonation. And monotone basically means that you speak robotically, right? So if I spoke robotically, it wouldn't be very interesting for you guys. But with intonation, you guys can kind of see how that voice is changing in pitch and changing in volume to kind of match what you're speaking about. Next, we have emphasis. Right. So emphasis is basically like you want to be impactful with your speech. You want to have this very big emphasis on these words that is going to be more powerful and is going to be the main focus. For example, when we want to say, for example, social media causes anxiety and depression, right? If we didn't have voice projection, we would mumble it. If we didn't have tone, we would say it in inappropriate tones, such as very excited and happy for some reason. And without intonation, you would just speak it like very robotically, such as, oh, social media causes anxiety and depression. So we want to have intonation to kind of like attract our audiences and emphasis. So in emphasis, we can make important what is needed to be important. Social media causes both anxiety and depression. So that's kind of emphasis. You want to emphasis on the words that are connected, on the words that are most important. So
I have a question.
Yes, James?
Can you so basically, can you say the offside, like a good something good for off is that something and something good for prop is something like that or something?
The answer will be no, because that's taking kind of the structure of a debate. We try not to think about proposition and opposition in impromptu speech. If you really want to, you can kind of adapt it into a pros cons format, which we talked about last time, but try not to think about debate as speech, because they're kind of polar opposites, although they might seem the same. So that's kind of that. Now back to the topic on hand. So that's kind of emphasis, kind of making the words that are important more important by either making it louder, more powerful. All right. And pauses. So this is kind of going down in kind of difficulty. Voice projection is easier to do than tone, which is easier to do than intonation, which is easier to do than emphasis. And pauses will be very hard to implement. So some people will want to use pauses right away, and they put it in the middle of the sentence, and it might sound kind of awkward. So for example, social media causes both depression and anxiety. So that was like a very awkward pause. James, please mute your mic. So that's kind of a very awkward pause. When we kind of want to pause, we either want to pause at the end of a sentence, and we want to find a place to pause where it makes sense, okay?
Do you pause at commas?
Yes, you should pause at commas. So it depends on where you pause. If you need to pause, you don't always have to pause at commas, or you don't always have to pause at periods, but you kind of do want to pause in important moments to let something sink in. So for example, if I was saying social media causes both anxiety and depression, therefore it should be limited, I can take the form of something like this with pauses, which is kind of like this. Social media causes both anxiety and depression. Therefore, social media should be limited. So notice kind of the pauses of the length of the pauses. Social media does have a pause, but it's not long enough to be awkward. And at the end of the sentence, we want to let how social media causes depression and anxiety kind of sink in, and then we can say therefore. If we say it without pauses, it would kind of sound, it's hard to follow. It's kind of, you're only living in the present. So did you know that social media causes both anxiety and depression? Yeah, and it's actually quite hard to do because your brain can't even follow up with what you're saying. So always use pauses. I've used it quite a lot. It's kind of the major step in which presentation can be done. Next will be gestures. Gestures is not necessarily that hard, but it can be quite hard for some people. So gestures can come very naturally to you, or it can come very awkwardly to you. So I should probably turn on camera for this to kind of demonstrate some examples of these so-called gestures. So with bases, okay, I'll start my video. Okay, so with the basics of gestures, we always want to have a resting position. Some people with a resting position might be comfortable having their arms at their sides, even though it's a bit hard to demonstrate because I'm sitting. So they might have their hands at their sides as a resting position. They might hold it like over here as their resting position like I do. Or they might like to do it like this, or although that kind of seems a bit more aggressive, or like this. It's really just like what your main stance should look like. Like if you're not talking about anything, you should be at your resting position. And when we have a place at emphasis, like over here, we want a gesture, kind of emphasis gesture. So some people like to do chops. So both-handed chops, one-handed chops, another-handed chops. So this is kind of more emphasis. So like emphasizing a word, you will do this while you're at the word, or this. So that's kind of one gesture that you can use. A structural gesture, which will be like the first point. You can either use your pointer finger or you can kind of touch your hand every time you do it. The first point, the second point, the third point, something like that. So that kind of follows along with your structure. And now just the open ones, kind of the one where you're pointing an idea. These are the ones that you're probably going to use the most. So the ones that I use will be like the open hand when you're talking about an issue, and like one side of the issue versus the other side of the issue. For example, something like that. I tend to use this a lot, but try not to overuse them because it kind of focuses them on one side of you, which usually isn't that great if you have it. So once you're done doing a gesture, always come back to here. And in fact, going back to your resting position can also be a gesture. For example, I'm talking about an issue, and once I'm done the issue, I can come back, and that's also a gesture to kind of close everything up. So going back to your resting position is kind of like a wrap-up gesture. So those are kind of basics, and kind of, it'll come to you naturally. So gestures vary from person to person. It's kind of awkward for me because I'm sitting in a chair. It's okay if you guys want to stand up while speaking or sit down while you're speaking, but I do prefer to kind of, I prefer for you guys to choose what you want, because when you're most comfortable, that's when you're going to do your best speeches. All right, and last of all is eye contact. So I kind of left this at last because it's kind of a bit hard to demonstrate with an online meeting. So for this, I'm just going to tell you guys to kind of look at your camera. In a real speech, though, you kind of want to keep eye contact, only glance at your paper, not glance at the audience. When you glance at your paper, you want to kind of stick to one person at a time. So look at one person for a while, then look at the other, kind of like that.
What if you don't have a paper?
You should have a paper because that's what you prepared on. But if you don't have a paper, then if you don't have a paper, then you don't glance at your paper. Then you kind of just look from person to person in the audience. Wonderful question, though. And also, this is a problem that I find a lot. Sometimes in speech tournaments, you're going to have a podium. That's when I like it more. Sometimes you're going to have to hold your paper. And if I start my video again, then you'll have to adjust your gestures. For example, what I used to do would be like this. Now you're going to have to hold one in one hand. Your resting position used to be this. Now you're going to have to have this as your resting position. So it varies differently if you have a podium or not a podium, but that's just kind of what it is like. So you kind of have to adapt. Gestures will come naturally, as I've said. All right, so that was the last one. And so what is kind of presentation? It's how you deliver your speech. These are like all aspects of your speech. Oops. So pointer. So it's how you deliver your speech, and these are all of the contents of your speech, and it's a key part in conveying the message, right? So when you convey the message, it's going to be not your purpose on speech, and it's different from inform, entertain, and persuade. The message will be kind of the theme of your speech. So social media, if your complete theme is that technology is a tool, but not both good and bad, you can vary your voice depending on that. So that kind of conveys a message of neutrality or something like that. Or if you think that there's a big amount of problems in the world, then you want to kind of use a very serious tone or even a sad tone to kind of convey the message. So it makes your speech more interesting, yes. So if I made this entire presentation with kind of just monotone voice, I bet you guys wouldn't have been paying attention. It hold your interest, kind of, this kind of partners up with examples to kind of hold your interest.
Wait, what do you mean by monotone voice?
Monotone voice is kind of like, it's kind of,
Robotic?
yeah, it's robotic. It's flat voice. So, so if we just search online like for a text to speech, it will basically sound like this, right? So if I just share my computer sound, it'll just sound kind of like, it sounds basically like a robotic voice if we do a male or female.
The quick brown fox jumps over the lazy
I guess
dog.
that's not a very good example, but it kind of sounds like that. And there's no variation within the voice, because there's no variation within the voice. There's no kind of emphasis on any words. It kind of skips over it. That's basically the epithet of bad presentation. And if we just use this with a female voice,
the quick brown fox jumps over the lazy dog.
Yeah, so this kind of a little
Do
bit.
the UK voice.
Okay, sure, why not?
I feel like anybody would actually sound like that. Like, even
Yeah.
if they were actually like
Yeah,
not trying to have intonation, I don't think they would actually sound like.
yeah. Nobody's
But-
ever gonna be sound that monotone.
Wait, do the Scottish accent or like the Indian?
Okay,
Scottish.
let's not get off topic here. So let's because we need to kind of get this over with a bit, because we are a bit over time, because usually our speeches take 30 minutes, so we kind of want to get this done by 8:30. Actually 8:25, because I have a 5-minute demonstration for you guys. Oof. Okay, so
If we do it faster for like speeches, maybe we could even play a game if we do it fast.
if we do it fast, yes. But I doubt that'll happen because we have a lot to cover today. So it lets everything you say you sink in. So if you just said everything like that text-to-speech voice without any pauses, it was very hard to even make out what he was saying because he was saying it so fast and without emphasis, right? Ethan, yes, the class will end at 9. So, and it lets them know what parts are important. So, it lets them, at the least, if they weren't doing anything, at least lets them know what's important and what's not important.
Andy,
Yes.
I forgot the meaning of emphasis.
Oh, okay. So, yeah, sorry. So, emphasis is basically kind of either saying a word more loudly or more importantly to kind of make it feel more powerful. So it varies person to person, but I usually do it like saying a word louder and kind of saying it in a different way. For example, lollipop versus lollipop. So you kind of emphasize it and you kind of just make your voice a little bit louder. So that's basically just makes you kind of know what type of words are more important. So does that answer your question?
Yeah, because my computer said my internet connection was unstable, so I wasn't able to hear anything.
Ooh, yeah. Okay. That's completely fine. Completely understandable. So if you guys have any questions, you guys can always answer me. So that will be our last slide for this. After these slides will be the demonstration. So does anybody have any questions or anything that you want to know about in speech?
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
This might could work.
Can you start your introduction, please?
So let's just get through to the other if there's any other questions, we can get started with our demonstration. Okay, Alicia, you have your hand up. Do you have anything to say? Alicia, you have your hands up. Do you have any questions about anything?
Are we going to have a practice speech?
Yeah, we're going to have a practice speech. So it's going to take around half an hour. So that's going to be our practices. And what we're going to do is this. So sorry if I went a bit fast today. It's because we had a lot to cover and we wanted a lot of time. So sorry if it's a bit fast. You guys can always refresh the recording that I'll post in the Google Classroom if you didn't understand anything. James, you also have your hands up. Do you have anything to say?
Did you ever debate or speak on in front of 100 people or something?
Technically
It's
speaking.
8:25.
Yeah.
8:26.
Okay, so sure. So yeah, I guess yes I did, and the answer is basically just yes. Okay, so I guess we'll just do my demonstration and we can quickly get everybody to practice. So my demonstration topic for today is hope is the most powerful emotion. So that's my speech topic. So I'll get a drink. Okay. I have an online timer to time myself. And I'll turn on my video. And I'll start in 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Some of you may have read the famous novel of The Adventures of Thomas Sawyer. In one of the passages, another adventure of Thomas Sawyer got him trapped inside a cave with his friend when he was only a teenager. The cave was like a winding maze. If you put yourself in Tom Sawyer's shoes, you would see that the cave is pitch dark. You would have no food, no water, and you would be trapped in there for days. You would be exhausted from trying to find an exit. You would almost injure yourself from tripping up on the sharp rocks. Tom Sawyer was trapped inside of a cave for days. His friend lost hope. His friend said, if we're going to not escape anyways, searching for an exit is too tiring. Dying right away is a good way to go. His friend lost all hope. However, Tom kept on searching and searching and searching despite having no food, no water, despite being exhausted. And his hope paid off because he did find an exit. And he found an exit because he had hope. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Andy, and today my topic is how hope is the most powerful emotion. And the first main reason why is that hope suppresses bad emotions. In the cave, Tom and his friend would have had exhaustion. They would have been dehydrated. They would have been starved. They would have felt fear. They would have felt sadness and despair. And his friend let all of these bad thoughts and emotions, he let all of it get to him. He wanted to just lay there and stop searching. However, Tom, on the other hand, he held on to hope. And his hope single-handedly suppressed all of his exhaustion, all of his fear, sadness, despair, thirst, and hunger. Hope suppressed everything, and hope led him out. The second biggest reason is that hope promotes good emotions. Let's take a studying person. If we told that person that the world no longer values studying, that studying is no longer important, he wouldn't study anymore. But in the real world, people still study because they have a hope of a better future, they have a hope of a better career, they have a hope of a better future for their descendants. So while they're studying, their hope of a better future will lead them to have better perseverance. They won't give up on studying. They will have a better work ethic. They will study harder. And once they do achieve the better future, they will be all the more happier. They will be all the more joyful. They will all the more have the sense of achievement. Hope will have promoted happiness, joy, and achievement. Hope would have promoted perseverance and work ethic. And last but not least, the third reason why is that hope is a big, big driving force. If you put yourself in the shoes of an immigrant, or maybe even your parents, before they immigrated to Canada, they might have had a fear of change. What's going to change when I go there? They might have had a fear of being not accepted in the community. I don't know their language. What would I do? They will have a fear of starting over because they brought nothing with them. They would have a fear of disconnection with everything they knew. All of these fears, yet they still immigrated because of a driving force. And that driving force is hope. The hope of a better future. So, in conclusion, ladies and gentlemen, Tom Sawyer, even though he might have searched and searched, he still might not have gotten out of this cave. However, if he lost hope at the first moment, it would have been guaranteed that he wouldn't make out of the cave. So, ladies and gentlemen, even though sometimes it might seem futile, always held on to that hope. Hope is the most powerful emotion. Thank you. Oh, perfectly on time. So, that would be my demonstration. Hopefully, you guys learned a few things. Kind of notice my demonstrations, my gestures, notice all the examples, notice all the comparisons, okay? So,
Can I go first?
oh, okay, there's a little bit of an echo effect, Lucas.
Andy?
Yes?
I'll go first.
Okay, hold on. Let me just get a sheet so I can track down who's first and who's second and such on.
Can I be second?
Okay, so Jeremy, you want to be, yes?
Could I be a speaker?
Okay, Nancy. Okay, so I'll turn on participants because it's a bit getting out of hand, to kind of, okay, the participants. Okay, so again, who wanted to go first?
I want to go first.
Okay, Jeremy. Does anybody want to go second?
I already said that I want to go
Okay.
first.
So I guess we'll have Lucas go second then.
Could I be
Can I
third?
go third then?
So I think I heard Nancy.
Then
Nancy.
can I go fourth?
Wait, okay. So hold on, I'm writing Nancy's name. So Nancy, you can go there. Do we have any other volunteers?
Can I go fourth?
Sure. Okay, James, you can go fourth.
I wanted to
go fifth.
Okay, Sarah, you can go fifth.
Can I go sixth?
Who wanted to go sixth?
Oh, sure.
Okay, Aurora. And if we make the speeches fast, we can add one more person inside. Do we have any other volunteers for today? Okay, if not, then I'll just have a random number. I think maybe 6 is enough for today. Okay, so if you guys, I bet you guys are all wondering what the practice topics are going to be. These are all the topics. So, Jeremy, what topic would you like?
Can I choose a maybe harder topic?
Sure.
Maybe number 6?
Okay. So, Lucas, what would you like to choose?
6.
Number 6. 6 has already chosen. Luke, what topic would you like?
I want 2.
Okay, Lucas. So number 2. Nancy.
Could I do number 3, social media?
Okay, number 3, social media. James, what would you like?
Mm,
6, 2, and 3 are
No.
taken.
I guess I only can have 2 more options.
You can either do
What's essential to life? Oh, like part of your life or something?
Yeah, so you can either choose art is essential to life, education is the best investment, or intelligence versus wisdom.
I'll do 1.
Okay, 1. Okay. Sarah, what would you like?
Is 5 available?
Yes, 5 is available. And Aurora, you will have number 4, intelligence versus wisdom. Okay, so that will be our speakers for today. So Jeremy, Lucas, Nancy, James, Sarah, and then Aurora.
Thank gosh I'm not speaking because I have way too many background noise and I keep getting distracted.
Okay, so we'll have 5 minutes for you guys to prepare, and once 5 minutes is up, I'll trust you to not prepare while others are speaking. So you guys can start preparing in 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1.
Andy, can you go back to the last line? I want to copy down my topic.
Okay, sure. You guys can see it over here, the time. Okay, so since this is basically like a chat for, this is basically like a break for everybody else, I'll turn on public chat. So there you go. You guys can chat for around 5 minutes. Okay. So, I think that is 5 minutes up. Well, I don't think it is. 5 minutes is up. So basically, now we will have our first speaker, which will be Jeremy. So yes, our rule states that turn on your video. So thank you for that. And Jeremy, you can start speaking in 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1.
I once read a story. It was about an old farmer. His child was always fighting each other for things. When they're like small, they fought for toys. When they're older, they fought for money and land. And then his father grew weaker and weaker and was going to die. But the three child was still fighting over land. So his father thought up an idea. They told the three children each to get one stick and each to get one bundle. And then they got it and they gave it to the father. So the first stick, his father snapped it easily. But the bundle, his father didn't snap it. He let the others try, but they still couldn't do it. Like no one in the family could do that. And then his father explained it to them. Alone, you could only do so little. You can't do everything you can and stop fighting. But together, you could do so much. So after their father died, then basically their child grew up to be great farmers and respected each other, basically. Hello everyone, my name is Jeremy, and today my topic will be alone, we can do so little, and together, we can do so much. So, like, the problem is that, like, people think their own ideas. They don't actually respect others. Like, they think they could do this all by themselves. They think, like, oh, I could do this, and then I don't need help. Basically, similar to that. What's the cause for this? I think the cause is basically they think they could do anything themselves. Like maybe in soccer, they scored, and the teacher said, "Oh, you're the like MVP of this game," and they think, "Oh, they only need me. They don't need anyone else." So that's what I think. But as like we say this, let's have maybe an example. Let's say maybe there's people playing soccer from one team and another. On this team, they only have one person. On this team, though, they have like over 10 persons. Let's say 10 versus 1. 10 think that they have to be a team to win. But the one person think he could beat everyone. Who do you think will win? I'll give you a few seconds. The answer should be pretty obvious, right? The person with the one team, because okay, no, that's not true. The person with the 10 people team will definitely win. They know each other's tactics, they respect each other, and they know that when they're together, they could do so much. And when they're separated, they're like a piece of junk, basically. Well, I'm not being like disrespectful or anything, but like that's kind of true. So the solution to this, basically, easy, respect others, make a team. When you're in it, like I have some personal experience. Like once I was doing a group project with people, like few of my classmates. So one person think like, oh, I should be the leader. I know this idea and you should follow it, and this idea and this idea. And like we disagreed, and then he thought, oh, I could do this by myself. We basically did let him do it, and we kind of failed on that project. Not a good score, believe me. So what is the problem is that one person, let's say this pin, right? Only one pin. Imagine this as a stick. I could break it easily. But if I had 100 of these in my hands, I don't have it right now, but let's imagine it. Will I break it? Can I break it? Like, it's not exactly that possible, right? If you're like together, you could be like extremely strong, I guess. But like if you're separated, you're only by yourself. I've heard another story. this lion wanted to eat the bulls. But like this bulls, they are three together. They're a team, as I've said. They're extremely strong. But then the lion separated them, made them go mad at each other, and they separated apart. And then they became so like unpowerful, I guess, that lion slaughtered them in like 2 seconds. Let's have another example. So basically, I have two teams, Team A and Team B. Team B thinks that this person should be in charge, and then they're the best. Team A thinks they should work together. Of course, Team A will win, right? So the solution is respect others. I think that together we can only do so less, but together we can do so much. Together, but by ourselves we can only do so less. Thank you.
Okay, wonderful. So remember not to go over time, but very good time management. So just a little bit of feedback. So wonderful use. So your presentation actually was very, very good at your in your hook. So I really like your presentation there. I see that you used your chops in there, which I think is very nice. You always have very good presentation as usual. Very, very wonderful. I also think that applied the examples from today very well too. You used a Team A and Team B analysis at the back, a theoretical example. You use like a group project as like a personal / anecdotal example. Really like that. And I also really liked your anecdotal example about the story about the people breaking the sticks. I really like that one because a lot of people, especially if your judges are ethnically Chinese, would know that story and they would kind of apply it very well. So very well done. So with logic and organization, your organization, remember just to signpost a little bit more. And for logic, you did wonderfully. Your entire speech made sense. So overall, wonderful speech. Now, for another issue to resolve, should I keep this chat open? So, for this, you guys can use the participants tab, and there's like a selection for yes and no, go slower, go fast, and more. So you can just use the yeses and nos to kind of vote.
I want to ask you a question. I feel like the chat is a bit too much since it's like 3 minutes and it's already like 200 chats.
Yeah, so you guys can use the participants to vote, so tab to vote.
No, they're too much chats. I really don't want anybody to have the chat really badly. People are just
so far I see more no's than yeses. So yeah, I'll turn off chat.
Thank you.
So host only.
Disable, please.
Okay, so thank you guys for being mature and voting nicely. So next we will have Lucas. So Lucas, you can start your speech in 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1.
Manners matter. Do you ever think about manners? Manners make you more friends. It also can make you praised. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Lucas, and today I will talk about manners matter. Here are the 2 reasons why manners matter. Reason 1. Manners can make you not lonely by making friends and making very honest friends. Reason 2. You cannot get in trouble if you have manners. For example, if you bump everyone you laugh, which I know that you guys don't want to get back on, of course. So please, everyone, have some manners so your life can continue on and more happy than ever. I'm done.
Okay, so your time was around 1 minute 10 seconds. So there's a bit of improvement to be made there. So next time, just kind of use a little bit more of the skills we used in organization to kind of construct your bones and kind of construct your bones taller, and then you can grow the meat. So with your examples, and you can fill up the time. So if you do that, just get a very stable structure, and then you can grow lots of flesh with examples. Then you can fill up a bit more time. So otherwise, though, I think you did a wonderful speech. For a presentation, kind of just remember to remember we talked about intonation. Try not to be very monotone. Use a little bit of voice variation to kind of make it so like you don't sound bored, basically. So yeah. So that's basically that.
Can I say something?
Sure.
We have about 6.5 minutes left.
Yes. So basically when we might have to go overtime today, but that's fine. So if you guys need to leave, you guys can private chat you and I'll give you permission. So yeah, if you guys need to leave at 9, I can give you permission, but otherwise you guys should probably stay to see the rest of this.
I have friends over and they really want to play with me.
ID, yeah, that's okay. That's yeah, I'll give you permission to leave at 9. That's completely fine. So if you have any social events, also you can contact me. So our next person will be Nancy. When I click start, Nancy, you can turn on your video, you can unmute your mic, and Nancy, you can start in 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1.
Did you know that 3.8 billion people use the internet in 2020? Just 2020. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I am Nancy, and today I'm talking to you about the pros and the cons of the social media. The pros of the social media is you can connect with people worldwide in just less than 10 seconds or less. Well, while you take the mail, it'll take about 2 weeks to get to your final destination. If you want to chat back and forth, that will take like a year, while social media or messaging will only take an hour. An example is if you were trying to connect with your long pen pal and you decide to take the mail, and it takes about 2 weeks for it to get to the other side of the world where your friend lives. And if you take a text message, 5 seconds, it's set all the way towards the other side of the world. The second pro of social media is opportunities for businesses. If you have found a business online, which is very likely, it will be very good for the businesses to grow higher than for it to advertise on the streets. Well, an example is Kijiji. Kijiji is a very good business. You can post ads for your jobs or sell things. Another example is LinkedIn. Not really a business, but it can try to advertise where you work, and your business might grow stronger. There's another pro of social media that is real-time news. You hear most of the news from your computer, laptop, or any of those things. And it's easier to access what is going around you and in the world on social media. Example, the news. Global news. You hear lots of your news from global news, and you don't really hear it from anywhere else, do you? The cons of social media are lots and have tons. Peer pressure. There's lots of peer pressure because on Instagram, for example, you see all your friends doing cool stuff and super exciting, and you really want to do that, but you're stuck in home at quarantine. And that puts a lot of pressure on your shoulders and is not good for your health. The second con is cyberbullying. It is more likely for you to get cyberbullied than physical bullied at like school or shopping markets. Cyberbullying is a big thing, and although it is not very good, but bullies still do it. And an example is Billy Bob. He was on Instagram. He chatted to his friend Susan, and Susan was really mean to him. And it happened for over a year until Billy Bob transferred schools. As privacy issues is the most important thing of social media. Although apps tell you, oh yeah, your privacy will be kept inside this private network. Do they really? Most people experience privacy issues and are very damaged by it. You usually, you can get scammed, get your credit card number, your security number, your bank account, and all your money will be drained. My opinion about social media is that it should be lowered. 3.8 billion people is a lot of people. Should be lowered and lowered as much as possible. 3.8 billion people use the internet so worldwide. And I think it should be time for it to get lowered and for time to get people to get less interacted with social media. Thank you.
Wonderful. Completely on spot with the time. So wonderful speech. So I think you did very, very well with all these different examples. I think you do very well with like logical examples or logical statistics. With the statistics and logical examples, like how you brought up the population on Earth that uses the internet, or global news as an example. So wonderful logical examples. I really, really like them. I think you even used some anecdotal ones with Billy Bob and Susan. So one thing I would recommend those, probably they might think that the name Billy Bob is fake. So maybe use a random name of maybe a real friend, but they didn't actually do it, but yeah, it's still acceptable. Maybe they will just think that you don't want to disclose the real names of your friends. So that's completely fine, just like a nitpicky little thing. So very well done on those examples. With presentation, I like your hand gestures a lot. I like your eye contact. It's very well done. You even did some head conducting, which I can explain later, and advanced presentation. Yes, advanced presentation. So wonderful work on those departments. Yeah, I like how you used an organization of pros and cons. So overall, wonderful work. Alrighty, so our next person will be James. So James, if you would like to turn on your video, you can wear your cap if you really want to. So I'll just wait for you to turn on video. Okay. So, James, you can start speaking in 5, 4, 3. I'll let you get your camera adjusted. Okay, you can start in 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1.
Life has art. People drew art because they loved art. Some people even wanted to marry art. I searched it up on YouTube like 2 years ago, and a lot of people said they want to marry art because art is beautiful, right? Hello panel, today I'm going to tell you about art is in your lives, and this is someone who drew, this is like something, this is something a person drew and had squiggly eyes because they loved art. And they even drew themselves, but they added these squiggles on their faces. And a lot of people don't believe in these types of arts. How could someone possibly get this image? It's like space, like the earth is, like something is blowing up right there. It looks like earth is blowing up. And so I think this image right here that I'm showing you guys is a drawing. You guys don't have to believe me or stuff like that. You might think this is a drawing, but it's not. It's cartooned. Okay, back to the topic. So basically, art is in your lives because, like, with the first people to make art didn't have pencils or something. They actually made art with different kinds of things like feathers, moth or something, and they didn't have anything. And a lot of people think that art is not part of your lives. But did anyone see something amazing in their whole entire lives? Like, did anyone see something so beautiful like this? That's art, but it's not art that you draw, right? It's art that you basically see. A lot of arts, like this woman, I didn't get her full face on, right? But yeah, I still got half of it. Someone drew her, and she's very famous. She loved art, and she was known to be, a lot of people say that she was known to be the best drawer inside of the whole entire world. Thank you for listening to my speech.
All right, wonderful, wonderful speech. So, just a few things I'd like to point out. I think that next time, like, try not to use like your virtual background as kind of like a slides presentation, because props are not allowed in impromptu. But that's kind of a side point. Because you used all of them, you had a bunch of examples. Although next time I like to see a little bit more variation within the examples, maybe personal examples or theoretical examples, not just all logical examples like the Mona Lisa and all those. But otherwise, I think that your examples are pretty good. Next time, just try to organize your speech a little bit better. Your speech was kind of a bit straying off topic at times, sometimes a little bit disorganized, sometimes it almost became a ramble. So just try to kind of keep a consistent format, and it would be better. So,
He's an artist.
Okay, so although we have a good presentation, I think that your logic can also be improved by kind of saying why everything is like this. So it kind of makes a little bit more sense. All right, our next speaker for today will be Sarah. So Sarah, if you want to turn on your camera, if you want to turn on your mic, You can start in 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1.
Education is the best investment. Quoted by Benjamin Franklin. Now, ladies and gentlemen, do you think that Benjamin Franklin is right? To me, I think Benjamin Franklin is correct. Today I will be talking about 3 reasons why I think he's correct. Hello, my name is Sarah, and today I will be talking about why education is the best investment. My 3 points are: education is linked with wealth and career satisfaction. No one can take knowledge away from you. And education makes you a better and more interesting person. Now I will begin my reasons. My first reason is education is linked with wealth and career satisfaction. When you have good education, it leads to being a knowledgeable person. And everyone wants their dream career. No one wants something that they never wanted. My dream career is being a brain surgeon person. Now, many people, maybe some people that want being a brain surgeon person, they would sit and they would talk to themselves. And this is what they would say. You know, I've been having a lot of good luck. I believe that I will have my good luck come again. I will wish to be a brain surgeon. I won't need to study. Studying takes way too long. And so they would sit and think. Maybe if they were really lucky, they would actually get their job. But then they come to a patient. The patient is ready. And when you get, and then you start pacing and thinking, oh no, I don't know what to do. Though, if you study and you have knowledge, then little by little, your brain will be grown. And then you will not need to worry when you have a patient because you know what to do. My second point is no one can take knowledge away from you. I was a little girl, and my father would tell me this wonderful story. And I would also think of this story. It went like this. There was a little girl. Every night, her mother and father would go into her room and tell her stories. And every single time they finished a story, they would ask her one question. They asked it all the time. It was, if your house was on fire, what was the first thing you would take? Now, this little girl was not a very smart girl, so she told her father, my jewelry. But the little girl started growing, and finally she found out that she wouldn't take her jewelry, she would actually take her books. Because knowledge is something that no one can take away. My third and last point is about how education can make you a better and more interesting person. I love reading books. I read history books, I read math books, I read Chinese books, any book you think I can. And this leads to knowledge. Now, I think that knowledge can make me a much better person. And this also led me to being interesting. So now when I have a conversation with a friend, it won't go dull, boring. It will go interesting. We could think of wonderful topics to talk about. We could think of good things to talk about. So these are the 3 reasons why I think education is the best investment. Quoted by Benjamin Franklin. Thank you.
Wow, I am very impressed with that. So wonderful, wonderful. So starting off with examples, you had outstanding examples. So you pulled from all of these examples. Theoretical, you had many different personal and anecdotal ones. I found the stories of the jewelry book, house burning one, very interesting. It kept everybody's attention, pretty interesting. It was very good at serving its purpose. I loved your personal anecdotes about becoming a brain surgeon. Your theoretical example about like what would happen if a person did get the job but didn't know what to do, right? So wonderful examples. Keep up the great work. Loved it. For presentation, really liked your presentation about I liked your hand gestures, I liked your eye contact, but I think that what you do very well on is the aspect of tone and intonation. So you do very good with this. The tone is correct. The intonation is not monotone. Very well done. So, and last but not least, of course, we have logic. So logic is, again, although it's not as important as the other three, you did well on logic because everything made sense. But I think for logic, you could have gone even the extra mile by maybe stating some more facts or some more pure knowledge, for example. So, for example, your thing about being a brain surgeon, right? You can talk about, oh, did you know that how much you have to study to become a brain surgeon, right? And then you can also say, wow, you have to study a lot, you invest a lot, right? But then you can say, wow, a brain surgeon earns a lot of money, right? So then you can kind of relate it back to how it's the best investment. So very well done, though. So overall, I think you did an outstanding job, terrific work. So yeah, keep up the great work. Next, we will have our next speaker, which will be Aurora. Aurora, you can turn on your camera. You can turn on your microphone. You can start in 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1.
Intelligence and wisdom. These two words are commonly mixed and confused together, but they are really two completely different things. A wise man might be more open-minded to other ways of solving a problem, while an intelligent man might just draw on his own personal experiences or some random stuff that he learned earlier on in his life. So, what are the differences between them? In this speech, I will tell you about the differences. So, first of all, intelligence can be used for both good and bad. Some criminals might be really smart, but they're really bad, like Lex Luthor and Batman. And contrary to intelligence, wisdom is positive. It's related to kindness, empathy, and all of the other positive attributes. And intelligent people don't always make really good decisions because even though they have a high IQ, they might not have a good moral. Because like I said earlier, they might be a criminal. And wise people make better decisions. They have more experience and they are able to accept life's ups and downs, while intelligent people might not because they don't have the tolerance for uncertainty and so these are the differences between intelligence and wisdom. Thank you.
Okay, so wonderful speech. So starting off with organization, I think that you did pretty well with organization. It was quite easy to follow along, so very good work there. With examples, I think you could have added a bit more than plain cold hard logic, which I think you did well at. So maybe add some maybe little bit of personal experiences. You can even make up some personal experiences if you really need to. So I would like to see a little bit more of those type of examples for maybe a little bit more theoretical situation or mind or mind experience or thought experience. So just a little bit more examples would have been better. Vary your tone a little bit more for presentation, but I think you did have very good pacing and very good pausing within your speeches, which I think is very good. But overall, I think that you have had a wonderful speech. Keep up the good work. Wonderful job. So next time, we will have people who didn't go yet, such as the people who are newer to this class, who maybe aren't as secure with volunteering. So they will go first before the before the volunteers tomorrow. So, wonderful work today, everybody. Thank you all for joining us today. This marks the end of our class. Thank you all for joining us. Thank you all for attending future speech class, and I'll see you next week. So
Thank you, bye.
Thank you, and bye. Bye.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Hey, does my mic work? Cause bye.
Okay, bye.
Andy, can you show you something?
Yeah, Jeremy?
Okay, just wait a few seconds.
Does my mic